Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 17 of This Week in Cloud Computing. I'm your host, Amanda Coulong, joined in studio with my co-host, Mr. Mark Jeffrey.
Don't call me Mr. That's my dad.
Oh, come on, you're Mr. Mark.
Okay,
Mark,
sure.
Mark, Mark.
Why not? Why not?
I missed everybody.
Welcome back. You're back from the woods of Maine.
The woods, the wilds of Maine.
I know.
So real quick, I have to at least go into this for 2 seconds. I picked wild strawberries. I drove down Moose Alley where I saw many, many moose, including the one that trotted next to my car as I was trying to trotted. It literally trotted.
Isn't that like
next to the car?
Tread or something?
It was trotting.
Trod.
Trotting. Okay, Mr. I'm a book writer.
Trotting. Okay, sure, whatever.
And I ran into a guy from high school who's the IT guy for Franklin County, Maine. And he watches This Week in Cloud Computing, so thank you, Cubby. That's
very cool.
for you. And my mom,
Your mom
who
watches.
is also an avid viewer of This Week in Cloud Computing, looked at me and said, honey, I think I get it.
She understands what cloud computing is?
Well, part of it anyway.
Can she explain it to us?
She said, whenever I access software that's on the internet, that's cloud computing.
That's
and I
right.
went, Mom, that software is a service. That's great.
That's fantastic.
So my mom rocks.
I thought you were going to go home and find a whole server farm in your barn or something.
I was a little bit worried about that, actually. So I'm glad.
Based on the fact that your mom's been watching the show.
I know. So yes, anyway, that's Maine. A lot of network updates in the 1 week I've been gone. Everybody apparently still works while I'm away, so that's a good thing. You're going to be seeing another face on This Week in Cloud Computing. I will not tell you who it is yet. I will tell you, though, that he has a very well-known cloud computing podcast.
Yes.
So that's your little
news.
hint. And he will be on an upcoming episode, so keep your eyes open for that. We also have a number of new shows that have either just launched here at this weekend or about to launch.
We have been very busy.
So do you want to elaborate on some of that? We said we were going to jump into things other than tech. So Mark, what are a few of those?
Well, we just, our first episode of This Week in Comedy with Ed Krasnick went up this past Saturday. So it's actually, or Sunday. It's up on the site right now.
Right.
We're going to be launching, geez, I'm sorry, there's somebody going on right now.
This
Week in Indie, we're doing a pilot for.
Poker.
This Week in Poker from the World Series of Poker in Vegas.
Yeah.
Yesterday went up.
Exciting.
We're going to be doing that every week, every Tuesday, I believe, at 1 o'clock. So, or I think it's 2 o'clock.
Check our schedule. Go to
yeah.
thisweekend.com and check out the schedule.
So, and then there's about 6 more shows lined up behind that are either going to be shooting pilots or launching in the next 2 weeks. So we're pretty busy around the clock here.
We stick to our promises. Speaking of shows, in terms of conferences within the cloud computing space, we've got the Salesforce.com CloudForce conference next week. That's on June 22nd. I said 27th because, well, that's my birthday. Anyway,
Hint.
So you can catch the live feed at salesforce.com/live. You've also got the Cloud Expo heading to Europe in Prague, June 21st and 22nd. We'll put the details in the chat room. And Giga who was just on This Week in Venture Capital, his Structure Conference is coming up June 23rd and 24th in San Francisco. So let's make sure we get that link up in the chat room as well. So great times there. We'll see Ohm in San Francisco. We've got some important sponsors to thank. We've got our Verticore sponsor and our Storm on Demand sponsor and our NetDNA, which is NetDNA CDN on Twitter, at Verticore and at Storm on Demand.
That's right.
So participate with us. You can join in this chat room. On Twitter, it's at TWYCloudComp and #TWYCC so we can follow you. And of course, we have 2 guests.
We do.
So I think that's important to mention. We've got Rob May, founder of Backupify, who's joining us today via Skype. And we also have Steve Larson, CEO of PhoneTel, joining us. So without further ado, I think we'll jump into a discussion with the news. So a number of stories. I think I'll save the big one for number 2.
Yes, you know which one I love.
Number 2. But for number 1, we've got a YouTube story. YouTube has confirmed that they are releasing a free video editor.
Yep.
And it's for anyone that wants to do basic things like trim little bits of video or get rid of background buzz and replace it with music. Just really, really simple stuff. They're aiming it at consumers, but what I think is interesting is you can fully trim and edit high-def 1080p video. So I'm thinking this will be better for, the marketing department of different companies that are doing multimedia that want to upload video to social social media sites, hopefully get some viral use of those, that kind of thing. But my question for all of you is, what do you think Google is up to with this? Why do an online video editor? What do you think, Mark?
Well, I mean, look, we do a lot of video editing here, right?
Yeah.
And anyone who has done it or tried to do it, there's really only a couple couple choices. There's I'm forgetting all of them, of course. Final Cut Pro.
Right.
There's basically 2 or 3 choices that are they're all software you have to go buy and put on your local computer, right? Yeah. A lot of times people are now putting video up on YouTube where they are just taking it from their camera on their computer, right? And there's no real way to edit it once you put it up there. Whatever you record it is what it is. Yeah. So I really think what YouTube is thinking of doing with this is giving the everyday YouTube user who's just using their camera and putting simple videos up a way just to sort of cut it a little nicer and just make it
get
a little bit more presentable.
Get rid of that silly part where you're picking your nose, or people don't know that you're on camera yet.
Right, and so that sort of thing, exactly. So you basically are. I don't really think this is for news departments or or companies really, or it's more casual use. I think that's what they're aiming at.
Let's pull in our guests for this one, Rob May, who's the founder of Backupify. Are you here with us, Rob? What do you think?
Yes.
There you are.
I am. So I think it makes a lot of sense. I think Google is, they're an advertising-driven company still, and they basically think if they can make it easier for people to create more content, then the more stuff that people put online, the more ads they can sell. And I think they're probably thinking that there are a lot of videos that don't go online because they need some simple editing, and they're giving people a way to do that.
All right, I think that makes about sense.
Yeah, and the other thing too is a lot of the video software that's out there is pretty expensive.
Yeah,
it's like $1,000 or something like that for a license key. So this is a way for anyone to get access, just the basic functionality.
Yeah. Well, let's pull Steve in too. What do you think, Steve? Do you think this will help YouTube videos look more professional?
Well, I don't know. It probably will, but it'll also be a great option for people who find the current video editing software much too complex for them.
Yeah.
I mean, the radical simplification can be a great strategy. And there's always 2 phases of technology, right? The first phase is where people bring in all these different things and make it possible to do tons of things, which all of us who are early adopters and techies just love.
Yeah.
But the second generation and the second evolution seems to always be originating around things that simplify and make things easier and faster and cleaner and clearer.
Right.
And that, it seems to me, what Google's trying to do here and get at this sort of second wave of people that want to do video editing by offering them a much more limited product set, but something that's probably much more easier for them to comprehend and use.
Yeah. And I also think, well, what I find appealing is if I'm at a conference or I'm out, just shooting something on the street randomly, I can immediately just upload that video and on the fly edit it right then and there in the cloud.
Yep, which is great.
So, cool beans, as they say back east.
Cool beans.
Well, I will jump right into this next one because I know Mark is chomping at the bit for it. So we've got E3 going on here in LA right now. For those of you who may not be familiar, it's a gaming conference, very well known. And a lot of companies are announcing gaming initiatives that are in the cloud. So you've got OnLive, who's just announced a cloud gaming service that's hosting all game content on its centralized servers. Right. So all the processing is done remotely, which means that you could, in essence, use a netbook or some lower-end machine like that as a gaming device. Pretty huge. And there are a number of, I think, Gaikai, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, Gaikai and Otay are also providing similar services. So we're looking at the future of gaming in the cloud, and that alone is huge. And I think, Mark, you would probably agree, this is probably a huge game changer, if you will, in terms of cloud computing.
Yeah, okay, so I do think that's big news. The bigger news, I think, came out of the D conference, where this was actually announced and showed. All things D. The CEO, Steve Proman, demonstrated the gaming technology on stage. The thing that was interesting about it is that it operates, the reason why it works, so basically, and just to describe it a little bit, you have like really high rendered 3D games that you're playing on your, locally, that are actually being processed somewhere out in the cloud.
Right.
So so unlike an Xbox where all the processing is local and on your machine at home, this is being done somewhere else, which the fact that there's no latency is huge.
So is it just, crazy compression technology?
That's exactly it. They've come up with their own proprietary compression technology.
Wow.
So there is no perceptible lag within 1,000 miles of the data center from which.
1,000 miles?
1,000 miles, yes.
Wow.
So they've really come up with something pretty spectacular. Games are perhaps the hardest thing to apply this to, right?
Why?
That's really because there's a lot of real-time activity. So someone's shooting at you and you're shooting back. You can't have any sort of
any kind
lag.
Of latency at all.
You see latency on things like Twitter even.
Right.
It feels a little disjointed, right? So in a video game, that's really the highest, most stressful test case for this, and they've successfully apparently accomplished it. So what that means is, remember a couple weeks ago we were talking about Google Docs. And how I was kind of like, yeah, you'll probably have to have something local on your machine to do the heavy lifting and the heavy processing. If they've really got what they say they have with this compression technology, that's no longer true.
So if they can do it with games, they can do it with other things.
That's right. And the other things are where the big money is: enterprise applications, office suites. Everything as functional as Microsoft Word, video editing. For real. Photoshop. All those things that you would have to do locally, you can now push off into the cloud. This is perhaps the biggest story in cloud computing since this whole trend began. I will go on record as saying that.
You are going on record?
I'm going on record.
Well, I hope you're going on record because you realize this is live, right?
I got it. It's done.
Can you tell how excited he gets about these things?
Yeah, this is an amazing story. I mean, I think everyone that went to D came back and their jaws just dropped at this thing, yeah. So.
Rob, what do you think? I mean, are there going to be issues here, though, when it comes to things like broadband? What about my family back in Maine and their connection? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, when I first called into This Week in Cloud Computing a few minutes ago, I mean, my Wi-Fi went down and the call got dropped. You guys had to re-add me, and that's just using Skype. So, I'm not a big gamer, and I didn't see the demo, but I'd be curious, Mark, was it because obviously I'm skeptical that I think broadband speeds are still too slow to do this kind of thing. But Mark, was it as high quality as an Xbox game or a PlayStation game?
Yes, it was. That was the big thing. That was the jaw dropper. They were showing movies remotely that were coming over via this compression technology and rendering somewhere else and basically showing up without any sort of frame drop loss or anything like that, or no artifacts whatsoever.
Wow.
So it's very impressive. It remains to be seen in the field. Of course, this was a demo, so
yeah.
And they're showing it under very controlled conditions. So you're right. I'm still skeptical of it in general. But if they have, Perlman is not, Perlman is an upfront kind of guy. He's been around for a long time, so I'm guessing he wouldn't come out of go on record with this himself unless he really felt he had something.
Yeah. Steve, what are your thoughts on this one?
I agree.
Oh. Go ahead.
Well,
I was going to say I agree that it's huge if it does work.
Okay. Okay, Steve, what do you think?
Well, I think Mark's right about one thing, and that is Steve Perlman knows what he's doing. I did the first web TV deal with him when I was at CitySearch, and very, very bright man. I think conceptually, the move to the cloud is getting a lot clearer and easier to see because of what people are learning. When you move a lot of the heavy lifting there and make the client a lot lighter, it doesn't restrict the number of things that you can do, but actually expands the things that you can do.
Right.
So to the question that you started off with about the announcement at E3 about games in the cloud, I think that's early on. Yeah, the first ones people will probably pan. There'll only be one or two things that it'll do better.
Right.
But over time, as people start to use that, they're going to find that that you actually can do more things, you can do them faster, and you can provide the user with a better experience with a lighter client, which will run on more devices.
True. One other quick question, too. Do you guys think that this will render things like the Xbox obsolete?
Possibly, yes. If all you need is a...
You think so? Rob, what did you say?
Oh, guess we
I think not anytime soon. There's a lot of technologies like this that people predict will be pretty disruptive, and they usually eventually are, but it's usually slower than people predict.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
We shall see. Ba-dum-dum-dum. We've got another interesting...
distribution power still counts for a lot, right?
Yeah, that's true. Exactly.
That's true. That's a big point.
Very fair point. We've got this next story. I really don't have a lot of information for it, aside from the fact that it's going to be announced more, I believe, next week at the cloud, I think at GigaOm's conference. Amazon's EC2 creators are launching a cloud computing startup called Benguela. Now, Benguela. Apparently, it's the name of a town somewhere.
In South Africa.
Yes.
One of the 2 founders is South Africa. So I figured that out.
And so they're announcing it at the Structure Conference. They haven't revealed much at all, aside from the fact that Chris Pinkham and Willem van Biljon said that it's cloud infrastructure software that will revolutionize how enterprises interact with the cloud. Very bold statement. Backed by Sequoia Capital, so, you know, that says something there.
Big backing.
So Amazon EC2's creators, what could they be cooking up? Should Amazon take note? That's really just what I want to talk about right now.
I doubt they're cooking up a competitor to Amazon. That would just be
silly.
A bad idea for a lot of reasons, I think. They've probably learned a lot from creating EC2, and it's probably another one of these onboarding things. That's what I suspect. Okay. So something which will take your existing infrastructure and onboard it into the cloud much more smoothly and easily than you would be able to do by yourself.
Okay.
That's my guess.
All right. Fair enough. Rob, what do you think? What on earth is Benguela?
Yeah, it's probably something like Heroku or App Engine, something along those lines. I can't imagine that anybody would compete with Amazon because that's a scale game they're playing, right? And I think the only way you're going to disrupt them over the long term is, you know, if you can find some way to lower the infrastructure costs, like if this compression technology works, and you could do some sort of virtualization peer-to-peer thing, right, where you take all the latent PC processing power that's sitting around and you make that appear like an EC2 machine somehow. But that sounds like really, really, really hard technology to me.
Yeah.
That's an interesting idea, though.
But that is a really interesting idea.
Yeah, outside of that, I don't see anybody competing with Amazon.
Yeah, exactly. Jason, our wonderful friend Jason Prosnitz, who's always, you know, big fan of This Week in Cloud Computing. Thank you, Jason. He said that on LinkedIn, one of Benguela's employees said that it is a next-generation network virtualization for the data center. So let's see what that's all about. Steve,
could be a lot of things, though. Any
thoughts on your part, Steve? What do you think Benguela is?
Yeah, anything that gives us more options than than EC2, I'm in favor of that. I'm very frustrated with it. So anything that helps.
You managed cloud hosting provider.
Why are we frustrated, Steve?
No. I don't want to get into that.
Oh, come on. All right.
I have a song for you later, Steve. You might find it interesting.
Yes, exactly. A very nice song. Very, very, very shortly we will have that song. Well, let's see. We've got another one from Eucalyptus. They've announced support for Windows virtual machines and a major upgrade to its open source software for private and hybrid cloud computing. So by broadening its usability in enterprise environments, do you think Eucalyptus will accelerate its adoption in mainstream business? Mark.
I'm going to throw this actually to our
Well, I'm going to throw this one at Steve.
I keep taking this one over, so let's throw this for a while.
What do you think, Steve? Will Eucalyptus gain more adoption from mainstream business by expanding out with Windows virtual machines?
Oh, anytime you expand your platform, I think you're going to have that happen. I'm not really a virtual machine expert, but it's obviously that support is going to mean that their current user base is going to, you know, expand considerably, and that's always got to be a good thing.
Yeah, this is true. Also, what about the fact that they're open source? I mean, will that still be an obstacle? I mean, come on, Mark, you have to at least address this.
Well, the fact that their software is open source.
Yeah.
I mean, and the fact that they're now putting Windows on it. How would that be an obstacle? That's what I don't.
I don't know. I mean, because a lot of people that are for Windows or for closed software aren't so focused on open source.
I don't know, just another option that people can. I mean, for people who don't have another option, that their entire infrastructure is Windows based and they can't move. They can't move to the cloud. Yeah. Now they have a way to do it.
Fair enough.
So I don't think it's a religious, you know, open source versus non-open source issue.
Okay.
It's just another option.
Yeah. Rob, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, so I'm not a virtual machine expert either. Don't know a lot about it, but I definitely think open source is the right way to go for something like this. I think it's going to help.
Okay. I think it will.
Yeah, sure.
And in general, I mean, they're just expanding out. You know, they're offering more features that are going to be better for enterprise users.
Yep.
So, okay. Well, last story, we have one from Intuit. I don't know if you guys have all seen, but they have been hit by a major, major outage. They've been down since yesterday at 7 p.m.
Oh, they're still down.
Still down. Last I checked, they were still down. Wow. Intuit isn't providing any details whatsoever on the cause or the estimated recovery time.
Okay, now that's a big mistake. Never mind what
happens. From a PR
happens.
standpoint, that's a huge no-no. I mean, they're not offering any details whatsoever, so bad on you, Intuit.
Wow.
So I have to throw this one at Rob because, well, given what you're doing, Rob, I'm sure you have a lot to say about this. What are people supposed to do? You know, Intuit's down. It's been down. I mean, my biggest question is, why now? Tax season's over. Why would they have a problem now? But anyway, Rob, what are people supposed to do when something like this goes down?
Yeah, well, it's always the edge cases that get you, right? So even though tax season's over, there's something going on that somebody didn't plan, I guess. It's yeah, I think this is part of the reason that we've been as successful as we have. I really wish that we'd already done a QuickBooks online backup, because this would probably be really good marketing for us. But one of the things that I think you'll see along these lines, this is one of the reasons that when we talk to IT administrators, they really want sort of third-party independent control of their data. Mm-hmm. It's not that SaaS providers don't lose a lot of data. They're not overly concerned about that. But there are accessibility issues. You are at the mercy of other IT departments. And as SaaS and cloud computing just grow, that's just going to get, if you look at the probabilities of failure, well, law of large numbers, you're going to have some of the more stuff that you put in the cloud. And so I think you're also going to see some like interim caching solutions. Some of the things that Google does with Google Apps and having part of that stuff locally. And I think you'll see this with more tools, and I think stuff like that. And I think stuff like third-party backup, like the things that we're doing, will help.
Mm-hmm. Do consumers have any recourse at all when something this big happens? I mean, what are they supposed to do?
I mean, I think it just depends on their terms of service.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, it does. There's an interesting stat, though, that 60% of companies that suffer a major data loss of some kind go out of business within like 6 months.
Wow.
And so, losing all your accounting data, I mean, it could be, I can say for a startup, it's a headache to keep up with anyway. You have so many other things to do, but I can't imagine for a big company what would happen.
Yeah. Well, I'll pull a Jason and offer some homework for everybody. If anyone can find Intuit's service level agreement or their terms of service and send those along to Amanda at thisweekend.com, then maybe we can go over that a little bit.
Or do it in the chat room if you want to do it.
Yeah, or throw it into the chat room. That would be interesting to look at. Well, without further ado, I think it's June gloom is hitting us here in Santa Monica. And
storm is approaching,
Shield.
That's right. Get out your storm flagons. Get out your little guys. Get ready for a storm on demand. Storm on Demand is an infrastructure as a service cloud computing platform that is powerful enough to replace dedicated servers. Yes, a proprietary cloud platform designed by Liquid Web, one of the largest web hosting providers with over 12 years of experience. It is easier to use and less expensive than Amazon EC2. Did you hear that, Steve? So if you don't like them, check out Storm on Demand. Features include server setup in minutes, easy scaling, backup and restoration capabilities. Yeah, I hope those dudes at Intuit are listening to that. And pay-as-you-go utility-style billing. Options include cPanel, Fantastico, Ubuntu, Debian, CentOS, fully managed servers, private networking, and much, much more. If only Intuit had listened to Storm on Demand, they would not be all freaked out today. Storm on Demand at stormondemand.com.
We love Storm on Demand.
Awesome. So much fun doing that.
And our little men.
I loved the Rob May action figures.
They're my favorites. See, one little man, two little men.
Are those you, Mark?
Yeah. See, everyone says that. Everyone asks if this is me. It's not me.
Although we could make them look like
They keep trying to dress me up in this. I'm just like, no, I'm not going to do it.
Oh, come on. You know you want to.
It depends. Depends on how much sponsorship is. I can be bought.
Oh, my. Well, I would love to get into a discussion with Rob. Rob is the founder of Backupify, it secures your online life for the most part. So you have all of your social media accounts, you've got all these cloud applications, and we're not really thinking about backing up this stuff as consumers. We back up stuff on our desktops, but not so much when it comes to the online bit. So Rob, you started off as a design engineer, and you worked on graphics processing chips for the Comanche helicopter. I just have to throw that out there because I think that's so cool. But what I don't understand is, how do you go from graphics processing chips for Comanche helicopters to creating a startup for backing up your online data? Where did that happen? Where did the idea come from for you?
Well, I will tell you that you're right. It was very cool to work on the Comanche helicopter. The thing could fly sideways at 90 miles an hour, so that was pretty impressive. Yeah, what happened was I was down on the Space Coast in Florida near Kennedy Space Center, and my wife wanted to move back to Louisville, Kentucky, where we're from, which, as you can imagine, there aren't a lot of FPGA design jobs there. So, I had an MBA. I started moving over more to the dark side, as some tech people would call it. I started doing business development. I taught at the University of Louisville for a little while, and started doing some different things and got involved in startups. And in late 2008, I was in New York. I was helping to raise money for a startup that had run out of cash. It was a terrible time to be trying to raise money with the stock market crash and everything. And I got together with a friend of mine, Charlie O'Donnell, who actually suggested that as my next gig, I build a Flickr backup tool, which I thought, was not the greatest idea in the world, and actually tried to raise money for a different idea while I worked on this as a side project. But what I found when I started talking to people is that people were moving more and more data in the cloud, particularly data that wasn't ever on their PC to start with. So like we talked about with the YouTube video thing initially, you're shooting videos, you're uploading it directly to the cloud, you're doing things on your phone. There's a lot of data that never touches your PC, and people started to be concerned that that they might lose that, or not even that the provider would lose the data, but that they would lose access to it for some reason. We had some of our early investors had a company that used Salesforce.com, and they had sued Salesforce over terms of service breach at some point, and Salesforce didn't shut off access to them, but they kind of thought if they had, we would have been screwed. So.
Yeah.
They really liked the idea for your business data of having sort of an independent third-party backup system.
I like that.
We launched in with what was really a prototype, but it got a lot more popular a lot faster than we thought. And so,
I can see that, because according to your site, you're now backing up over 81 million emails, 73 million tweets, and 33 million pictures.
Wow.
That's a lot. How do you scale?
That's been problematic. So, the nice thing about this company is, we couldn't have built it 5 years ago because we would have had to raise a lot of money and invest in, a data center or some kind of architecture. But now we just signed up, we use AWS. We're all cloud-based, and we went from, when we had our first big sign-up day, we went from 2 EC2 machines to 9 EC2 machines in like an hour.
Wow.
Yeah, I'll bet.
So that was nice. Now you still get to the scalability point where you have to be careful. You can't just throw more hardware at the problem, or else that gets very expensive. So we had to go through a couple of, re-architectures, and recently when we rolled out our first business product, we had to go through a major re-architecture. We actually moved off of PHP. We're entirely Ruby and Java now.
Oh, okay.
We're using Cassandra because we're write heavy, as you can imagine, right? We don't do a lot of reading back of the data. We mostly write the data.
Yep.
So yeah, we have 40 terabytes of data under management now.
40 terabytes.
We have probably like 30 EC2 machines running now, and it's nice. It's very, very easy to scale.
Yeah, something like Cassandra would be the only way they could scale up.
Yeah.
I can't imagine any other way.
Well, I just like the fact that cloud computing made Backupify, possible in the first place.
Yeah.
That's kind of an interesting take on all of this.
We bootstrapped. We ran, for the first year, we ran on $125,000 of angel investment, and
wow.
That was the only reason we could do that was because of AWS.
Okay. Speaking of investors, I'm sure they're happy to know things like this. I did a little research, and ABI Research says that cloud-based consumer backup revenue is expected to increase 5-fold by 2015. 2015. So the next time your investors are asking, about some data points, make sure you throw that one at them, Rob.
Yeah, because it is all consumer.
Yeah, they want us.
Sorry, go ahead.
They want us to get 3-fold of that increase. So we'll see if we can do that.
Now, you are strictly consumer, correct? You're not doing anything with the enterprise?
Well, they may be doing something with business.
Yeah, we just launched, last week we had a soft launch for our first business product, which is a Google Apps backup solution. And what we found was that we were a free service for a long time, and when we put the paywall back up, most of our paying customers were businesses, which sort of makes sense, right, because their data is more important to them. So we're going to keep the consumer service under a freemium model, but I think most of the future launches you're going to see are going to be targeted towards SMEs and small and medium enterprises and people like that, because they have a lot more data needs, and I think we're a better match for where they are. They're also the kinds of people that are moving to SaaS a lot faster than large enterprises who still have a lot of stuff behind the firewall.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You just kind of answered what I was going to ask you too, in terms of why start with Google Apps. I want to jump into a few specifics.
Yeah, so it's interesting, right?
Go ahead. Go ahead, Rob.
Well, I was just going to say, I don't know if you guys, I don't know if you've seen the latest numbers, but Google Apps has over 2 million businesses, over 25 million accounts on those, and I haven't been able to verify this with Google, but I read somewhere that 2/3 of those have come in the last 9 months.
Wow.
Which is pretty fast growth, and you see it like classic disruptive technology moving up market, right? Bigger and bigger companies are moving to Google Apps. And I actually think one of the things that's holding some companies back, one of the things that we hear from some people, is sort of the loss of control of that data. So I think solutions like ours, and I expect you'll see more on the market over the long term, I think will actually help the move to SaaS, to have an independent third-party backup of these various tools.
Yeah, I agree. I would have been a lot more comfortable doing stuff with Mahalo if there had been a solution like this that was available to me.
Yeah, so I'll tell you a funny story too. We had Gmail backup and we had Google Docs backup. We didn't have the full Google Apps suite yet, and we actually found a small IT shop that was reselling our free solution to his customers as a Google Apps backup solution. So that was a little bit embarrassing, and technically a violation of our terms of service.
Yeah.
But that was one of the reasons that that was one of the first times we sort of stepped back and thought, hey, maybe this is something we should look at doing, because we were very consumer focused in the early days.
That makes sense. Well, speaking either consumer or enterprise, one big question I'm sure you get is why back up online data? You gave me a statistic that said 32% of all data loss is user error, which does not go away with cloud computing.
Right.
So do you have some use cases with some of your Backupify customers?
Sure. So there are a lot of people on Twitter that are big fans of us because we've restored data. I don't know if any of you are friends with Marsha Collier, who lives out in LA, but apparently there was a photographer in LA that had a lot of pictures and shut down his Facebook account, and a lot of people lost. They were tagged in, and Marsha was one of the people that I think lost about 200 photos that we were able to, she was able to get back through Backupify. We've had people. I can tell you, almost all the restore cases have been user error or else have been hacked accounts.
Yep.
So either a hacker cracks your Gmail password, they delete all your stuff because they're going to spam people and they want to make room, and then when you reclaim your account back from Google, your messages might be gone. If you delete things, Google doesn't know that wasn't intentional.
Right.
You have the right to delete your data, so they're going to send it away. But it's almost always user error.
Yeah, I'd love to go back to that example you just mentioned with a local photographer in LA. We've been affected by that. A lot of us here have had many pictures taken from this person, and you forget that when someone like that puts things online, or generally when we put things online and we're tagged in stuff, we don't think to copy those for ourselves or to download versions for ourselves because it takes time.
Right.
So a lot of people lost tons of photographs that documented their time, in the tech world here, and that could have easily been saved with Backupify. So I was looking through Jason Calcanis's, he was showing me his Backupify account, and in Facebook, it had different images that he'd been tagged in. And so it just automatically captures that for you, so you don't have to go save those things.
Well, Jason famously deleted his Facebook account.
Exactly, and but he still has those pictures in his Backupify account.
I was just going to say, that's why he needed Backupify, because he was going to get rid of his Facebook, and so he didn't want to lose all that data. So.
Yeah. So, and
the other interesting thing is some of these services like Google Contacts, for instance, right? It's very easy to export your Google Contacts, but if you get a lot of email and your contacts are being updated and changing every day, you don't want to do that every day. So to have an automated service that does it once a day, you always have the latest version, is very convenient.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I just got a question from the chat room. Nuno Maya 2 wants to know, will Backupify support Dropbox desktop, like that sort of service in the future, something like a Dropbox?
Yes, I think so. So one of the features that you'll actually see in maybe about 8 weeks is the ability to push your backups to Dropbox. Mm-hmm. So right now everything's stored on AWS. If you want to push it to other places, Dropbox, and then we're also going to support a company called Files Anywhere. And integrate with more clouds down the road. But on the reverse side, we'll also back some of those services up. I can tell you that I had last time I was in Boston a couple of weeks ago, my computer actually died, and I lost almost nothing because we're all, we're Google Apps based at Backupify. We're Dropbox. We use Dropbox a lot. So almost all my data was stored in the cloud. I don't even use a PC backup solution because nothing's gone here. But it did make me think that even though Dropbox is unlikely to lose my data, if I share something with somebody and they delete it, if there's some long tail, catastrophic event that happens, it does make me concerned because I keep a lot of important stuff out there. So I actually talked to my team about, hey, how soon could we add this because I use it. Unfortunately, I don't make all the product development decisions. So
fair enough.
We'll see, but we'll definitely get to it.
Yeah. Another question that I'm sure you probably get is, you're in the cloud and you're backing up stuff from the cloud, so there've got to be security and privacy issues. And another question we got from the chat room from JPROS is, you place a lot of emphasis on security and privacy, but it seems you're just leveraging what already exists within Amazon. So are you doing anything beyond this, for example, with your own IP?
Well, so that varies a lot, right? Because if you look at the different services that we back up, what we try to factor in is the importance of the data. We try to factor in the security on the API. I mean, some of these things are passed over secure connections. Some of them aren't. One of the things that I think we need to do a better job of is building out a security profile for each service. We've been able to move. When we started the company in November 2008, most of these services still didn't support OAuth. Mm-hmm. So even as early as 6 or 8 months ago, we had to use we had to store passwords for Twitter, for Gmail, and things like that. We're at the point where we don't have to do that for very many services anymore, and so that's obviously a lot safer. We don't have some of the security features that we plan to launch in the future yet. Like I would love to give users the ability to encrypt their data with their own passkey, so that nobody, even Backupify's lead engineers, can't see the data or anything like that. I think that would be a great feature for people to have. And I think you'll see a lot of evolution in the API ecosystem in coming years. I think you will see more secure APIs. I think you'll see APIs that can pass, that are designed to pass data for compliance purposes. I think you'll see APIs that have encryption, built into them. I think there'll be a lot of interesting developments there.
Yeah.
So. Okay. Yeah, so we think a lot about security. My first full-time hire was actually a security expert. Mm-hmm. We're not yet at the point where we do everything that we would like to do. We have a lot more ideas, but we do a lot, and we do think a lot. That's part of the reason we use Amazon. I think their security is great, and so we had a user who sent us a question about, wanted to know where our data centers were located, and said that he wouldn't sign up until he knew. And I said, Amazon won't tell us. So I actually think that's a good security feature. But
so what you're saying is, you're saying that security, is something that you were thinking of early. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
And one other quick thing I wanted to mention too is that you can also download your backups too. So I believe on the site it said your initial backup is typically ready to download in 24 to 48 hours. So if you want to actually have a copy of your
really? You get like a big zip file or something like that?
Yeah. How does that work? Is it like a zip file? How large is the file?
So it depends on the service, right? We automatically zip certain files like Twitter files, Google Docs, Google Contacts. Mm-hmm. We're going to release Gmail zip pretty soon. We typically don't do photos because even number one, if you zip them, you don't get like a major gain.
They won't compress.
Right, they won't compress.
Exactly. But also, it's still going to be a big zip file for a lot of people. So we're looking at some of these services that will write that on a DVD for you, or if you want to download
or a Dropbox
zip
integration.
File, we can do it. Yeah, but we don't do it automatically. Now, once we integrate with Dropbox and Files Anywhere, using sort of the fat backend pipes that would connect AWS to those guys, it may make sense to at least push them to other locations.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we should move right along. Make sure you check out Backupify, backupify.com, and also follow them on Twitter at Backupify. Thank you so much, Rob. I know that I'm definitely going to sign up just because I've got a lot of stuff with social media accounts, and after losing certain things already, it's important, I think, to have an easy way of doing that.
After Magnolia.
After Magnolia, exactly, that too. We didn't even mention that one.
We didn't. That's a nightmare of nightmares when it comes to this stuff.
So thank you, Rob, and hopefully we will be hearing from you again. So I believe, because we haven't had any...
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So I think it's time for a musical interlude.
It may be. Hey, Steve Larson, this one's for you, buddy.
This is for you, Steve.
Your cloud hosting provider letting you down. Take a look at managed private clouds from Verticore. A managed private cloud solution can easily replace your current IT infrastructure and eliminate IT pains. I love that part. Avoid the cost and hassle of buying and maintaining IT equipment and software. Deliver 100% uptime to end users. Configure and deploy resources in just minutes. With Verticore, oh Verticore, you should be using Verticore. Verticore, oh Verticore, you should be using Verticore. With Verticore, your private cloud is hosted in an advanced and secure data center, which uses only best-in-class hardware and software and gives you access to scalable bandwidth. Verticore's team of experts monitor and maintain your private cloud 24/7 by 365. Come on, chat room, sing along now. It's Verticore, oh Verticore, you should be using Verticore. Verticore, oh Verticore, you should be using Verticore. Verticore.com. Your cloud
at Verticore on Twitter. Make sure you thank our wonderful sponsor, Verticore.
Please do. Sing your thanks.
Well, without further ado, I believe we have an app of the week. I love that music.
It's good. I like that one too.
Do you play that one too?
No.
That wasn't you?
Nope.
Oh.
I've been figuring out Muse tunes lately, not that one.
Well, we have Steve Larson of PhoneTel joining us today on the phone. You're still there, aren't you, Steve?
I sure am. I haven't missed a word.
Did you like that singing? Did you join us?
I love that song. I hope you heard my applause at the end.
I think I did, actually. I thought I heard someone clapping.
There we go. Now we've given you two wonderful sponsors to choose from.
Exactly. Well, Steve and I go back. We've been at a few conferences together and, had some hijinks and whatnot. And I remember at one of the most recent events, he mentioned he was getting involved with a new startup. So he's a startup kind of guy. Mm-hmm. Steve has a background. You are the CEO of security software Big Fix. And you've also been part of the founding team at Net Perceptions, which is now a public company. And also, what was the other one? I'm forgetting. City Search.
City Search.
Yes, of course. Can't forget City Search.
There we go.
Down in L.A.
Impressive. Exactly, down in L.A. Hint, hint, come back down here. So this PhoneTel, you just launched an Android application where you can sync up your smartphone's address book with all of your contacts on the public cloud or private cloud. So whether it's your LinkedIn and Facebook types of contacts or whether it's the Yellow Pages, White Pages, Yelp type contacts, this pulls them all together for you. Did I get that right, Steve?
You did. In fact, you're going to do this whole presentation for me. You're doing a great job.
Well, why don't we jump into this a little bit? Do you want to go into the demo?
Yeah, why don't I real quickly, let me take you through it. The
sure.
Easiest and the
Let's jump to my screen, everybody.
Okay. The easiest and really the fastest way to understand PhoneTel is to understand that it's an app for your smartphone. But unlike apps that are designed to sort of entertain you between connections, PhoneTel is all about helping you manage your phone and text interactions with all of your connections with people. And we use a cloud-based solution to do that. So usually we start out somewhere different, but I'm going to start out with this one given this audience, because if you were to imagine you're landing at McLaren and you get a text message that says, hey, look, our meeting got moved from the Flamingo Hotel, we're now meeting at the MGM, and you were to put MGM into your address book, well, you're probably not going to see anything on your address book because you probably don't have the MGM there.
Exactly.
If you had PhoneTel installed on your phone, what you would find that you'd type MGM and you'd find out exactly, you could call it, you could do whatever you want. And it does that because we're connecting your address book or your dialer, the place where people go to use their phone 25 to 30 times a day. We're connecting that to really 3 different kind of cloud services.
Nice.
The first one, the one on the left, is we connect it to all of your personal cloud, your private cloud, your contacts, whether they're at Salesforce.com or LinkedIn
or your
Facebook
address book somewhere.
Or of course your address book is right up there at the top. Then what we also do is connect it out to the public cloud, which would mean, white page listings, yellow pages, things like Yelp, any place where we can find contact information. And then we also have some private databases of mobile numbers that we've acquired. We also have a list of telemarketing numbers, and that's helpful when I talk a little bit about the way we do inbound. But also hard to find numbers like the 800 number for Amazon or United baggage claim at United Airlines. So what that lets us do because of that cloud-based back end for users is 2 things. The first is a directory where you can instantly find within your dialer, you don't have to remember what app to go to. Within your dialer, you can find any number, any place, any time, without a lot of the junk, just the person you want. You also have this ability to have your phone tell you who's calling you, because we do a reverse lookup against that database. So now you can tell it's the dentist calling you, or it's the Walgreens, or it's a friend of yours from Chicago or whatever. So the idea when you need to find numbers quickly, having our app on your phone allows you to do that.
There's the name. Sorry, Steve, I have to jump in there. I kept thinking, why call it PhoneTel? Now I get it. I let my phone tell.
There you go.
Right. And another way is, hey, when you're in a meeting and you can't take a call, you can let your phone tell you who's calling and then let it respond to you as well.
I love that part. I love this whole bit about caller ID because you can screen calls, you can actually have it send a text message to the person
automatically.
Automatically, whether it's one that they've already put together or one that you've customized for yourself. I like that feature a lot. That's really nice. I also like the bit about scheduling callback reminders. Those are helpful.
Yeah.
Yes, I've done my homework.
Yes, you have. So, you're at a movie, you're having dinner, you don't want to take a call. You're driving.
True. Yeah.
Any place, or on the other side.
And every single person who uses PhoneTel looks really handsome or pretty.
Yeah, they're exactly.
Seems to be like that with a lot of products.
So,
I know these products just magically make people gorgeous.
We took all of these pictures right here in our office.
Oh, I'm sure. So
one of
Steve,
the things that, excuse me, one of the things I wanted to say is that in addition to having all of these different data things, the things that we have to do that really makes the search good is to do a cross-check and then rank it on relevancy and context. So, for instance, if it's 9:30 at night and you do a search on pizza, we're only going to show you the pizza places that are open around you.
Oh, I like that. You're scrubbing the data for that. I like that.
Right.
Okay.
So the screen here is what this incoming call looks like. So,
well, right now we're seeing you. Okay, let's go back.
Okay. If you went back, tell me when you got me back here. Okay, here you go. So if you when a call comes in, you can glance down, and even if the number in this case it's not a number that I have in my database, but we do a reverse lookup and we tell who it is. And you can then quickly, in this case, what we can do, we can decline to take the call because I don't want to take the call right now because I'm actually talking to you, Amanda.
Right.
It pops this screen up on for me and says, look, here's a quick message that you can send back, and I can either do one of the first three that we kind of create for you, or I can have a custom message of my own. And I think the one you liked, Amanda, was to say, take the second one, and if you click the second one, busy, I'll call you back, then we automatically add that to your calendar in the future with the person's name and the phone number, so it's just one click to call them back.
Yeah. That's the one I like
and then
the most.
You get a response back saying, "Hey, the message has been sent."
Perfect.
And you're good to go, and you're good. So when you need a number, you want to find out, pizza, for instance. It's late at night.
Yep.
I'm sorry I didn't get L.A. pizza for you, but
it's okay.
Next time you're in San Jose,
no, I would ask you to look for pizza in L.A. that is also gluten-free.
Okay, there we go.
that is your challenge.
Right. So if kind of in an overview of what the problem is that we're trying to solve, there's two of them. The first is that right now, mobile search really sucks.
Yeah.
There's just too many junk hits. And when people are on a mobile device, you want something that's just comprehensive and it's relevant. And that's what we provide. And on the other side, the call management functions are about, hey, you're in a meeting, you can't take a call, but you want to be able to respond and get a message back.
Yeah.
This is the other, we kind of how we stack up about other people that are doing this.
Well, I was just going to ask you, Steve, real quick, how do you compare mainly against Phonolo or Otter app? Those seem to be two competitors to you.
You know what? I've never heard of either one of them.
Okay. Well, you probably should.
What are they again?
Phonolo, 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 and then Otter app, OTTER app. I believe we've covered both of those on This Week in Android with Ashley.
Yep.
So if you want to get an overview of them, go look at This Week in Android.
I will do that. What mostly people ask us about, is, hey, wait a minute, I've got an app on my phone. I got yellowpages.com.
Yep.
How do you compare with that? Or, I got Google Maps. Can't I get this with Google Maps? And how are you different from some of those kind of things? And the way we kind of describe it is like this. It's what we do the unique is that we're comprehensive across all these different things. We don't just look at one data source,
right?
And we cross-check against it. For instance, most people don't know that when somebody buys a Yellow Page ad, that's for 3 years.
Exactly.
And they're going to keep giving that information out for 3 years. Even if the store has been boarded up, they're going to direct you for a year. They're going to direct you there for another year.
Right.
And whereas we will look and say, God, this place hasn't had any Yelp listings. Anybody commented on Yelp, or nobody's done a Facebook Foursquare check-in in the last 6 months.
So you're doing a cross-check of all of this different data then to see what's the most relevant and the most up-to-date.
First, we do a cross-check, and again, we can do this because it's in the cloud. If we tried to do this on the phone, there's no way you could do this with our 200 million.
So you do it all in the cloud, and then you just deliver it to the phone once you've got the right information.
Exactly.
Okay.
Cross-check, and then rank it for relevancy, and the relevancy is based on, well, where are you? So geography plays a big part of that. And the other thing that plays a big part of that is the ranking on the basis of context, like what time of day is it? Do you want places that are open or closed? And then we also look at what did other people around you at that particular time of day with that particular search query, when we presented them with this list of choices, which one did they take?
Yeah.
And the one that most people take eventually moves its way up to the top.
Gotcha. I can definitely see your social and personalization background coming into this, Steve.
And a little search engine company in the middle of it.
Well, we've got to wrap up this part. One last question I've got for you. How are you guys making money?
So every time you call one of those, use it to call businesses, we're getting paid by that business when we have a relationship with them. So if you call United Airlines or the insurance office or whatever, we're going to get paid on pretty much in the dollars per call.
Gotcha. Okay. That makes sense. Well, we definitely want to, stay in touch and let us know more as plans progress. But make sure you guys all check out PhoneTel. When you're getting a call, you're trying to figure it out, let your phone tell. Now I get the name.
And now it all makes sense.
It all makes sense. Thank you so much chatting with you, Steve. It was great. And on Twitter, it's Go Get PhoneTel. Go Get PhoneTel.
All right.
So I think, this June gloom's kicking in again. What is going on in Santa Monica?
I see clouds in the air once again, Shield Maiden. Prepare yourself, batten down the hatches, and get ready.
Claps of thunder.
For Storm. Storm on Demand. Storm on Demand is an infrastructure as a service, cloud computing platform that is powerful enough to replace dedicated servers. And yes, even yours, Steve. I hope you're listening. A proprietary cloud platform designed by Liquid Web, one of the largest web hosting providers with over 12 years of experience, and many, many little men like this one right here. They're not Oompa Loompas, they are Storm warriors.
Storm warriors. Storm warriors.
No, not Stormtroopers. Something else.
Storm on Demand warriors.
It is easier to use and less expensive than Amazon EC2. Features include server setup in minutes, easy scaling, backup and restoration capabilities, pay-as-you-go utility-style billing. Options include cPanel, Fantastico, Ubuntu, Debian, CentOS, fully managed servers, X-ray vision, superpowers, ability to fly, private networking, and much more. And not all of those were true. Storm on Demand can be found at stormondemand.com, where they have cool little guys. Storm on Demand. Thank you.
I just like playing with our little men.
It's a fun commercial. I like it.
Storm on Demand on Twitter. Please, please, please tweet out thank you to our sponsors. You never know when you're going to get a prize.
You never do.
You never do. Never, never do. Well, I think that about wraps things up.
I think that's it.
We have wonderful sponsors, Storm on Demand at Verticore also, and at NetDNACDN on Twitter.
Yep.
So again, they make this show possible. They've made it possible since the beginning. So thank you guys. We want to make sure that we, share that love. So spread the love on Twitter and everywhere else that you happen to have social networks where you back up all of your data with Backupify. See how I got that in there?
Very good. Very good.
So thank you to Rob May for joining us with Backupify and Steve Larson again with PhoneTel. Ideas for the show, please send them to pitch@thisweekend.com or amanda@thisweekend.com. We always are looking for new guests and, any conferences, any discounts, that sort of thing. Send them our way. But until next time, same cloud channel. I am Amanda Coulong, your host, This Week in Cloud Computing.